everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Megan, and today I'm going to be discussing the next book I read this year. It's called The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and it's the first book in the Off-Campus series. The Off-Campus series is a series of sports romance. It's mostly about hockey players for this particular series. I think there's 5 books in the series, and so this one is about Garrett, who is the team captain, and his love story with this girl, Hannah, which ends up being part of a deal. He's failing philosophy, and he finds out that Hannah has got an A on the midterm and he failed it. The professor saw that 80% of the class failed it, so he is getting a chance to redo the midterm. And so when he finds out that Hannah got an A on it, he tracks her down, and because she says no in the very first moment that he approaches her. And so he ends up being really persistent until she basically gives in to tutor him. These hockey players, as he says, we never give up. And probably to hurt his ego, a girl has probably never said no to him before. So he finds out that she has a crush on this guy named Justin, who is the football player that's in their philosophy class. He kind of uses that as leverage to get her to tutor him. And she kind of agrees because he's like, it's only for 10 days until the midterm date where you can like retake it. And then he's like, we'll just go to the party and then that will be it. And then you can, somehow win your date with Justin. She agrees to it. Throughout that time, Garrett starts to like her a lot. He's someone who never said that he wanted to be in a relationship because of hockey. It was just about hooking up with as many girls as possible in college and then going pro and then figuring out life there. But learning and spending time with Hannah, he's just really enjoyed her company. They have kissed, and so she kind of just like rolls with it because he never said he wanted a serious relationship, and she knew that he's helping her get a date with Justin. So they're kind of pretending to be a couple, but they aren't necessarily a couple, in order to get Justin's attention for her to go on a date. And so with that, Garrett does get hurt when he finds out that she actually does get a date with him, because he thought they had something with each other. And she's just like, you never wanted a girlfriend. And so he thought, because she was actually assaulted in high school, got drugged at a party, that she feels like she's unbroken. She doesn't really have much sexual experience. She was in a relationship with a guy prior to Garrett, and that was it. So in the back of her mind, she's just like, well, if we're kissing and doing stuff, maybe he can help me overcome my sexual experiences. And so when he finds out that she got a date with Justin, he feels hurt by that. And so she puts it back on him, saying, well, you didn't want a relationship. But she was just like, he's like, well, what am I, this guy that's just like helping you like learn how to re-hook up and all this other stuff. And so he thought she felt the same way about him, but they, like I said, they've never talked about a boyfriend and a girlfriend relationship. And so that's kind of like the main thing throughout the book. Well, actually the main thing is her assault experience in high school, how it becomes a thing throughout the book in terms of her not drinking, and then her sexual experiences, basically feeling that she's like unbroken, and she's hoping that Garrett can like fix her and not being broken. And so there's just like a lot of like miscommunication, and that's kind of how the relationship is just kind of like back and forth. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely raunchy. I didn't expect to be this raunchy. Maybe I did, because it's a sports romance and it's set in college, so it's about these guys that are put on a pedestal, and it's their love story with a girl that they meet. I'm glad that it wasn't a toxic relationship. I will say that. It was really interesting because you get each perspective. You get Hannah's perspective and you get Garrett's perspective, and how Garrett is the one who got feelings for Hannah. Hannah, knowing him, doesn't give in very quickly to everything, which I think is great, but it also gives Garrett a challenge to kind of convince her on this, or in order to do certain things, or to spend time with him, or to admit that she's falling in love with him too. There are definitely some sweet moments in the book, especially when they bond over TV shows. They end up one of the sessions starting Breaking Bad, and then ever since then they will just binge watch it, and that's kind of how they get to know each other, is through watching that TV series. And I think that's when Garrett starts to know that he's just like, I really like hanging out with this girl. Like, it's just very different than doing the one-time hookups, you know, with the hot girls at the parties that he goes to. I do want to talk about the TV adaptation because I looked up the cast after I finished this book, and they are not what I pictured the characters to look like. In the book, Logan is described, he's one of Garrett's roommates, he's described as having like very blue eyes. It's brought up quite a bit. And then Dean has green eyes, and Hannah also has green eyes as well. They're also described as like hockey players. Like, they're big and they're lengthy, they're lean. So hockey players have like a specific like a body type, or like kind of like body shape. I don't really know how to describe it. Just looking at the looks, I know that's so bad to say because it's so superficial. I just didn't really picture the cast for the characters. I pictured something like, and I don't have like a specific person per guy that's in the book, but I had like a general anesthetic in my head. So like the guy from Shelter and Amazon Prime that played the main girl's boyfriend, kind of like that look, as well as the guy from Cruel Summer who played the boyfriend, the love interest. I can't think of his name either, but like that kind of look. Or even the guy who played in Why Women Kill. Like, there's just a specific like look that I had in my mind. But then you also had Tucker, who is Southern, so he is probably going to have some type of accent. And I think he might be redheaded. Dean is blonde-haired and green eyes. And then Logan has blue eyes. I don't know if Logan has, I think he has brown hair. I think Logan has brown hair as well. Logan and Garrett, I think, have brown hair. And then Logan has the blue eyes because they talk about his blue eyes a lot. And then Dean has green eyes, and I think he has blondish hair. I feel kind of bad for saying that, but hopefully the cadence and the acting, they embody the personality, and I'm hoping that's how they got casted. I don't know. There's just certain specific things in this book series where they talk about how the guys are on a pedestal because they're just so good looking. And there are certain physical features that stick out for each of them that I thought would be like in the casting process. So I don't know how I feel about it, but those are my thoughts on that. Oh, the other thing is too, is that because it's such a raunchy book and the assault and sexual experiences is part of the storyline with Hannah and Garrett's love story, I don't know how they're going to pull that off. I don't know how they're going to rate it in terms of audience, because there are a couple scenes that I can think of right off the bat in my head that are very explicit, and I'm like, that would probably be for like HBO or Showtime or something. And because it is a part of Hannah, I wonder how they're going to approach it, is what I'm getting at. And I understand it's a college show or setting, and that's what's expected in college, but there is like a vulnerability to the book, specifically because Hannah and Garrett are showing your point of view. So I think that's going to be the hardest thing to convey on screen, is because the book goes back and forth in point of view. Us as the audience members are not going to know what each character is thinking, and that is very hard to do, I think, when it comes to movies or TVs, unless there is some type of voiceover, because that's a part of the book, is that they're telling you what they're feeling and what they're seeing. And with the TV show, a lot of the times you're kind of seeing it happen with no commentary. And so I think that's going to be the hardest part for people who've read the books to then watch the series, is that we're not going to have probably Garrett and Hannah's point of view or their thoughts auditory. And I think that's probably going to be the biggest, I think, hurdle or difference from the books to the TV show. I will say there are a couple scenes that I hope are in the TV series, and one of those scenes is when Hannah comes back to Garrett's house from the bar and she's drunk, and the next morning she says to him, is like, will you have sex with me? And he's like, now? And she's like, no, tonight. And so at this point, I think he already knows about the abuse and like he's just like not buying it. But their banter between each other when they're sitting on the bed is so good because he's just like, what is happening to you? He's like, why did I let you drink this much? Like, she's like acting like kind of different. And it's so great because she's kind of like testing him, but at the same time, she really wants this. And I think that's where he finds out about it. He finds out about it somehow, but he's just like not convinced because he doesn't like want to hurt her or do this or do that. And so that scene where they're sitting on the bed is so funny to me. I really wish they had that in there. I wonder if they're going to do the locker room scene where she comes towards the end of the book and she walks into a locker room and all the guys are naked because she's mad at Garrett for the rumor that she spread around campus. I wonder if they're going to show the blackmail that his dad is doing with her. He's like, break it off with him or he's not going to be able to finish college because his dad's a professional hockey player and he's paying for his son's tuition. Well, they probably have to show that because that is a catalyst for the scene in the locker room. Those are the 3 scenes I can think of. And then I think from the photos that they have already posted, they showed the scene where they're probably binge watching Breaking Bad on the bed. Just a lot of that nudity stuff is just like I'm kind of like worried about in terms of what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed because there is a lot of that in this book. Overall, I really enjoyed the book. Like I said, it's quite raunchy, but it isn't super toxic, so I really enjoyed that. I love sports and I like the collegiate atmosphere, so it was really cool to read something that I haven't really, I don't think, read before. I don't think this came out in 2015, so I'm pretty sure there's a lot more like collegiate setting books now, but I think back then at the time, or even when I was in college, there wasn't really anything like this. Everything was teen oriented, and so it's kind of cool to now have a young adult at the college age for people to relate to. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.